Welcome back to Between the Ropes. My name is Hunter Dietz. This is Colt Powers. Today, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane, talk about one of our favorite shows. Really the first big show in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Starrcade 83.
Yep.
The first closed-circuit professional wrestling show.
Yep.
Led the way for pay-per-view.
Yep.
Inspired Vince McMahon to do WrestleMania. I mean, this show is bigger than big.
And it's funny because I think they started doing like Starrcade to compete with Vince.
Right.
And so it was, it's kind of a golden era of pro wrestling because they went back and forth on, well, we're going to come up with this. Well, then Vince answers with this, and it's back and forth. I love this era of pro wrestling.
This is a lot of fun, this era. And this show in particular is a lot of fun. A lot of these matches still really hold up today. If we run down the card just a little bit, we've got, I got all this information here, and the one thing I don't have is the card. So
You don't have it on the other page there?
no, it's I must have missed that page.
Oh.
So I do have the poster on here though. Obviously the main event, the huge steel cage match for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Harley Race defending against Ric Flair. Ric Flair, an up-and-comer here, and not the legend that he is today. This is kind of I don't want to say the beginning of his career because he's probably close to 10 years in at this point. But
no, but I mean, it was definitely if I remember right, we're talking about an era where Harley Race had been, he's not wrapping up by any means, but it is a kind of a passing of the torch type match. And it's solidifying Flair as being that guy, that main event, especially it was the southern type territories, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Because you had the NWA, you had Jim Crockett Promotions, and so if there's an era that I like to go back and rewatch, it's these old NWA matches. It's just such a great era. You watch their interviews and stuff. It's still all right there. They get done wrestling, they're right out of the ring. They're breathing heavy and they're talking to your interviewers. And this is an era a lot of people may not know, especially if you watch today. You watch, say, AEW. Tony Schiavone is a young man at this NWA Starrcade event.
Yeah, this is 43 years ago, and Tony Schiavone, across the board, I mean, he's still working today. Yeah.
And I do personally love Schiavone. I'm not just for the Sting relation because he always wants to, it's Sting! I love that. But I always thought Tony Schiavone was a very good interviewer. So,
well, and huge numbers for this first Starrcade, November 24th, 1983. So this is Thanksgiving week we're talking, and that was kind of the precedent for Starrcade for years after that. Is the Thanksgiving show. Greensboro Coliseum in North Carolina, 15,447. In 1983, drawing 15,000 fans for a show like this, I mean, this is a spectacular house.
And it's a huge house, and this is also an era of pro wrestling. We've all been wizened up to that it's a gimmick today, that these are athletes. Yep. They are athletes. They are putting on a show. It's not like UFC where you fight and then you can get injured in WWE or WCW or NWA, but you are protecting your opponent. So this is an era where people got legitimately upset. They would wait after a show. They would wait for somebody and they would have knives and sometimes guns and be ready to hurt somebody if they hurt their favorite wrestler.
Right. Well, and so talking about Ric Flair, there's all the dispute about WWE says that Ric Flair is a 16-time world champion. Flair says he's a 21-time world champion. Where people wonder, where do those numbers come from? Why aren't they the same?
Yep.
It's not like this is an era before notebooks and taking stats down and everything. The reason is there are some unrecognized reigns, and one of them is along the lines of what you're talking about.
Yep.
Ric Flair, I think it was the year after this, working in Puerto Rico, the heat was so big on Flair. Jack Veneno, I think was his name. Puerto Rican wrestler that he's wrestling. And the idea going in is Flair's going to come in, he's going to work this match, he's going to escape by the skin of his teeth with the belt. Actual death threats from not only the people in the stands, but the police themselves. If their hometown guy didn't win the match, Flair will die.
Yep.
And so they had to switch the belt. Jack wins, he holds it up, and they give the belt back to Flair and never acknowledge it in the United States.
Yep.
So this is an era where wrestling is real.
Yes.
There is a lot on the line, and you see that even bleeding into the storylines leading into this. Gives me chills thinking about it today. Harley Race's promo leading up to this, he's in the suit, and he puts the bounty on the head of Ric Flair, $25,000. Take him out. This is such a great story and such a great build. And although it isn't Flair's first title win, he won in 1981. He beat Dusty Rhodes in Kansas City. Flair was unhappy with it because he felt the Kansas City crowd didn't care about him. It wasn't his people. Yeah. This is North Carolina.
This is Flair country.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jim Crockett Promotions putting on Starrcade 83, and let's start getting into the card a little bit here. What do you got for us?
So I took memorable matches that I don't remember every single little detail. It's been a while since I've watched this Starrcade, but I thought this was an interesting piece for people who know the current WWE product. You have Carlito. I know he's. I think he was let go here, a year, give or take?
Yeah, I think so.
But you would recognize Carlito. His dad took on Abdullah the Butcher.
Carlos Colon.
And it was not, I mean, if I can't, like I said, I haven't watched it recently. It's something I want to go back and revisit again. But if I remember right, Abdullah wasn't... he's not a super athletic guy, so I don't think it was a very long match in an era where there was
4 minutes. It went 4 minutes.
Typically we had long matches, and this one wasn't very long, so it's not overly memorable. But
think about the reputation of these two guys, Carlos Colon and Abdullah the Butcher. These are the most gruesome, bloody guys. I mean, that's Ric Flair
right there
coming up through the. That's right, yeah.
That's Nate right there.
And I don't know who's showing Nate through the window, but we appreciate that. But yeah, Carlos Colon, Abdullah the Butcher, these guys, they go at it like nobody's business. There's stories about Carlos Colon, so much blood you can't see his face.
Yeah.
Abdullah the Butcher with the fork,
And this is also an era where... some guys got wisened up to how to properly blade.
Yeah.
And these guys, Abdullah, you can see.
Oh yeah.
The
it's
lines.
Up and down.
I mean, he had no care of what he would look like afterwards.
Did not matter to him. No.
So that's a match that, like I said, recognizable names. Another match, and this is going to be one that's a little more geared towards the main event, is Wahoo McDaniel and Mark Youngblood versus Dick Slater and Bob Orton Jr. And it's because it's billed as Flair's buddies versus Race's henchmen. And you had, Dick Slater and Bob Orton Jr., who are the guys that collected that bounty.
Yep.
They collected the bounty.
Yep.
And they did end up winning this match.
Yep.
So another match that is, I think, important to the story.
Well, sure, and that's the other thing about building these cards back then is fine enough match on its own, but when you know the story behind it and you have Gordon Soley and Bob Caudle on commentary telling you, walking you through this story, I think that's so important when those mid-card stories can help shape the main event scene like that. And can't say enough good about Wahoo, Dick Slater, Bob Orton Jr., and Mark Youngblood.
Well, and Wahoo McDaniel, that is, looking at somebody who we like, that is today's audience. Triple H credits, I believe, Wahoo as the first time he saw wrestling that mesmerized him, that inspired him to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And so, there's just a ton of really interesting stuff on this card. Also, want to mention, I don't want to call it the best match of the night because I think it's a tie. You can't skip the dog collar match.
And that's the next one I had on my list there. Greg Valentine versus Roddy Piper.
This is such a gruesome match.
And Greg Valentine was the NWA US champion at this
Yes.
time, and it was a non-title match.
Didn't matter. Piper didn't want the title.
Nope.
No, he wanted blood.
He just wanted blood.
Yes, and he got it. This match is, even by today's standards, it's so bloody. It's so extreme. It's so hardcore. And these guys had a reason to hate each other. I mean, there's a promo that Piper does ahead of Starrcade where he says, I don't want the gold. Don't put the title on the line. It's not about that. It's about me and you, and it's about getting this over with. And a dog collar match, it's something unheard of at the time. I mean, it's the first one.
Yep.
These two men chained together by dog collars and using the dog collar as a weapon. You know, you don't need to get the tables out. You don't need to get these chairs and everything. That's the weapon. Their aggression is the weapon.
Well, and when you think of this, the initial thought is, well, it's just so he can't get away. But they, being innovative, let's use this in the match. Let's use this as a weapon. And I did read a little tidbit. I'm not 100% sure that it's factual, but according to a website, Piper lost like 75% of his hearing due to this match and the intensity and violence of this matchup. So another interesting point I will make with this is one of the last matches for both of them in NWA, because shortly thereafter, I do believe it's within like a month or so, maybe two, they both went north to the then WWF.
That's right, because this is November of '83. Piper main events the first WrestleMania in April of '84. Or '85.
Four. I don't remember.
After I said that, I think it's 5.
It might be.
I think it's 85.
There's a lot of numbers.
There's a lot of numbers, and we're going off the top of our heads here, so we're certainly going to get facts wrong. So don't hold that against us. But
or let us know in the comments. Just
well, yeah, that's you can say whatever you want, I guess, in the comments. But yeah, there's a ton on this card that's very innovative for its time. And that dog collar match is just obscene in the right way. Today, we see a lot of these hardcore spots. We see a lot of these bloody spots in some of these smaller promotions. And I think it's just to get the pop in the moment. There's not a reason for it.
I'm going to say something that's probably controversial to a lot of people. But when we talk smaller promotions, I am talking independents. I am talking, you see some of these shows, local shows, we'll say, and they're pulling out these light bulbs. They're pulling out barbed wire. They're doing this stuff. Now, I understand loving the business. I understand that. I understand wanting to make a name for yourself. But I truly think there is a better way to do it than having some of these hardcore matches just for the sake of having a hardcore match. Now, there might be a reason. You may have built a storyline within your promotions and stuff in the local territories, but to do this stuff before you're making at least decent money, I sure hope that you have a really good job and really good insurance, because it turns me off to see the light bulbs, to see the barbed wire. I would rather you learn to tell really good stories and hopefully make your way towards a bigger promotion like a TNA, AEW,
I have only ever seen one death match in person. And I did not know when I went to the show that's what the main event was. I just wanted to go support kind of local wrestling. And it was a small show, but this is a bigger independent, Pro Wrestling Revolver.
Yeah.
There were probably 1,000 people there, maybe a little under 900. In Clive, and so this is a decent sized show for what they're doing, and I thought it was a great show. However, the halfway point, right before intermission, there's this no DQ match between Matt Cardona and Paul Walter Hauser. Bully Ray comes out. They put Cardona through a flaming table. Okay, no problem with that. We've been building that to the point that Paul Walter Hauser is promoting the match during the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, no problem. What I did not know was that the show ended with this huge Cage of Horrors death match where there are 4 people in it. I don't remember any of their names. The one guy came out to Pantera, though, so that was cool. But there's all of these light tubes and doors. The doors I don't get either. Like, if you're going to do a table spot, use a table. But they use doors all the time. Light tubes and doors and barbed wire and the one guy had a scalpel. And it's just, it's a turnoff. I mean, you go to these shows because you're like, well, I want to support local wrestling. And if I'm not a wrestling fan, well, I'll go try that out. I liked watching Hulk Hogan growing up or something, right?
Yeah.
And you're going and you think you're going to see that. And between the combination of every crowd is an ECW crowd now, is the way that I'll phrase it.
Yeah.
There's some of the chants and the things that these people say, between the way that, wrestling fans smell, the smell at these indie wrestling shows. Guys, wear deodorant.
Deodorant. It's not a hard concept.
Please. I have had to warn everyone I have gone to an indie wrestling show with that's not a fan. I said, hey, we're going to have fun. This is going to be a good time. Hold your nose.
Yeah.
Every time. And I've been right every time. So that's a big deal. But just at these indie wrestling shows, you're turning off potential fans with all this hardcore stuff when there's not a story told for it. I think when there's a story told for it, you can bring them in even closer with that stuff because it's so real. Mm-hmm. And Piper and Valentine is a great example of that because those are 2 guys that, hey man, I heard wrestling's fake, but that's real.
Yeah.
And that's what you saw in that. Yeah, Piper legit lost 75% of the hearing in his ear.
Yep.
Damn near deaf in that ear just for that match, for the fans. And so people say that wrestling's fake. Roddy Piper always had something to say to that.
Yeah, he was one that he would he'd fight you.
He would. Yeah. He would.
So, but no, it is another great match. Had a great story coming to it.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Another match on the card, NWA Tag Team Champs, Jack and Jerry, the Briscoe brothers, took on Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood.
Yep.
Something that a lot, not even this era of wrestling fans, they might get references to it, but a lot of people probably don't know how big the Briscoes used to be.
Huge
and
deal.
I don't like the fact that Pat Patterson and Jerry Briscoe might be remembered as the Stooges. Although during
I did really like the Stooges, though.
I was going to say, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, but I just go back and learn some of the history because Pat Patterson was one of the greatest Intercontinental champions. Was he the first?
He was the first.
First Intercontinental champion. And, the Briscoe brothers, which a lot of people that I talked to, they're like, there's another one. They knew Jerry as the Stooge.
Jack Briscoe, 2-time NWA heavyweight champion.
And people don't necessarily know the history of it. So the Briscoe brothers used to be a fantastic tag team and probably the most dominant tag team of the Southern Territories. One of the most. The tag team scene was so much different back then.
Yes.
I mean, it was such a different beast. The tag teams, it was almost, it was probably on par with a world championship.
Absolutely.
If you had a quality tag team, I mean, you had the Freebirds.
You have the Freebirds. You got the Road Warriors. You've got, later on, Demolition. You've got a lot of these teams from this time. I mean, the top of this card, we didn't mention it, the Assassins. And the team of Rufus R. Jones and Bugsy McGraw, the Assassins were a big tag team in their day. I mean, and the fun part about the Assassins is they're guys under masks. So you can have the Assassins in any territory. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same people. So they were a huge draw. And that goes across the Von Erichs.
Von Erich.
Across the country, tag team wrestling was this big thing that pretty much stopped in the 80s, it feels like. That I blame Vince McMahon for. He never knew how to.
And we've had great tag teams, but they're not of the yesteryear. But we've had, I mean, the Dudley Boys, great tag team.
Sure.
The Hardys, great tag team. I personally, Kofi Kingston and
Big E and Xavier Woods, the New Day.
well, the New Day. I mean, I was thinking of Xavier because Big E unfortunately can't wrestle anymore, but I feel like they have done this for so long. They are a great and have been a great team.
Yep. The Usos.
Usos, and they're another prime example, like we've talked before on here, that they almost need to be a tag team, and they function so much better as a tag team. So we have great tag teams, but it's nothing like it used to be. I don't feel like.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, well, and by that same token, I mean, when we're talking about how the Usos need each other, that's the case with a lot of these tag teams. Do I want to see Devon Dudley in the world title picture? No, I want to see him in a tag title picture because the Dudleys are awesome together.
Yes, together.
You know, do I want to see Road Warrior Hawk challenge Hulk Hogan for the title? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But I would love to see them, take on the Freebirds or something.
It used to be a bigger deal. Like if you had like the Rockers, when they split up, that was a big thing because sometimes it's only one guy that can make it on his own. The other guy, like Marty Jannetty, falls by a wayside.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Marty. That's the way it went down. HBK became a huge superstar.
Well, and I mean Harlem Heat, Booker T became this big, world heavyweight champion, star and everything. Stevie Ray, it's not much for him without Booker.
It created a different dynamic, and I love Stevie Ray, and I loved Harlem Heat. That was a great tag team back in WCW, and to see that Stevie kind of fell by wayside, it's like, oh, that really kind of sucks, And they tried different stuff, but ultimately that's sometimes the tag team is the way to go.
Well, yeah, and I mean there's different dimensions, and I do want to get back on topic here, but just while we're talking,
we
about
can
tag
always
team,
get sidetracked.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
while we're talking about tag team wrestling, I mean, there another big one that we forgot to mention: the Wild Samoans.
Wild Samoans, yeah.
When did you ever see Alpha without Sika?
Yep.
Or vice versa. And that's what we're seeing in this tag team wrestling picture. The match that you're referring to, Jack and Jerry Briscoe versus Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, singles stars, paired together for a tag team match. The Briscoe brothers could both work singles, but I feel like they're an anomaly to what we're talking about, where Jack Briscoe is a star in any territory.
Yeah.
Jerry Briscoe is a star in any territory.
Yep.
You put them together, though. This is almost, in my mind, kind of like the Mega Powers. In like, Randy Savage can work main event anywhere.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan can work main event anywhere.
Yep.
But when you put them together, and so yes, like you were talking about, the Briscoes won the tag team titles from Steamboat and Youngblood before this match, and this is the rematch made to allow them the comeback.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much leads us into our steel cage match.
Yes. And what a match this is. Special guest referee Gene Kaniski, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. The feeling in the Greensboro Coliseum changes when the cage is put up, our referee is out there, and now Ric Flair's music hits.
Yep.
And he comes out, and we've all seen the clip before, but you go back and you watch it, and it's just as magical in the moment too. Ric Flair coming out after that slow intro of the theme to 2001 and spinning around in the robe. It's a $15,000 robe.
Yeah.
And he's just a star.
Yes.
He's ready for this spot. And they know it. He knows it. We know it. And a hell of a match they have.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this is an era that I love to go back and watch. You watch wrestling today, and I still love today's stuff, but there's so many high spots. There's so many. The action keeps going. We've lost the ability to sit and watch a match where a chokehold, a headlock or something is like draws people in, where they sit there. You'll see them with the headlock, and they might talk, a little bit, and they're catching their breath.
Yeah.
And that, it drew people in. You could sit and watch those Iron Man matches, those 45-minute, because they always back then they had the time limits.
Sure.
You gotta, they'll announce it before the match with a 30-minute time limit or whatever. And typically I think a lot of the heavyweight title matches typically have a 60-minute time limit. So these are classic matches that it's so different from today's matches and superstars, but then to add the steel cage into it as another level there. And like we said earlier, it was a time where Ric Flair is, they're basically handing him the ball and saying, okay, kid, you got to run with this now. You're the guy.
Yes.
And, this territory was, I feel like a lot of territories knew Rick. And like we said, he didn't feel like he got the recognition he needed when he won from Dusty.
Yeah.
Not that wasn't a big match, because it was, and Dusty was a big star.
Yeah.
But where they decided to hold it, so that was another thing about the Starrcades and WrestleManias and stuff. Back then, they had the territories.
Yeah.
And you would switch around to different territories, but if you didn't know Ric Flair from Adam,
sure,
you know what I mean? So this was another one where yes, winning the first title was big for him, I think, but he kind of just felt, this isn't the right place to do it. This, in his, home state, I do believe, right? Yeah. That was, Charlotte was Flair country.
Absolutely. So, just top to bottom, a great card. Not much more to say when it comes to a lot of that. But truly, an insanely good, an insanely good card. Not a bad match on it. Your thoughts coming out of Starrcade 83, how did this shape the wrestling industry in the years to follow?
Well, obviously this set up for, it was a time where they had to close circuit like we talked. And if you don't know what closed circuit is, you would have to go to like a theater or another
auditorium
or somewhere where they would show, you couldn't get this on your local TV station. They didn't have a pay-per-view necessarily at the time, cable, you couldn't order it or anything like that. So you had to go somewhere where it was showing to see these. Otherwise, you were waiting for a month, maybe. I don't, because they had TV, but depending on your area, if you could, find out the results, and you might have to wait for the magazines. And that was a time when, obviously we didn't have phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all this stuff that we can get. Literally right now, I could watch. I don't even have to watch WWE's pay-per-views necessarily, and I'll start having results popping up literally seconds after the match. So, that was a time that things were starting to change. The closed circuit was leading to the eventual pay-per-views. It led the way for McMahon to say, well, they've got Starrcade, let's do, WrestleMania, or, what I mean? And it was a great beginning to, and the Starrcades that came after it were huge. Starrcade 97, Sting versus Hogan, was at the time one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time, just because of the year and a half lead up to it. So Starrcade has, as far as a pro wrestling fan, a special place for me, because it was it led to so much, and it was that annual pay-per-view every year that, man, I always looked forward to it.
Yeah. Well, and like we said, a really good show, really important to the industry, and still holds up today. So if you go back and watch that, certainly worth your time. I'm not sure about the whole show with the library content moving around. I'm not sure exactly where it's at now. But
I have it on VHS, I think.
So if you head to Colt's house, he has Starrcade 83 on VHS. Give him a call. He will agree to it.
Well, the only problem is if you have a VCR.
Bring a VCR with you.
Have a VCR.
Colt will gladly sit and watch Starrcade 83 on VHS as many times as you want to come over. So Yes, but the main event, Flair and Harley, that is WWE Vault just uploaded that last week, I think, on YouTube in its entirety. So
Nice.
that's
So when you get done watching this, jump on over.
jump on over to that. Real simple. Yeah, and I think that about does it for our Starrcade 83 recap.
And speaking of YouTube,
Yeah.
didn't you have
Oh, that's
another
right.
announcement?
Yes. Between the Ropes, not only on YouTube anymore, YouTube exclusive for the video as of right now, but now on our website, Radio on the Go. Also on Spotify, soon to Apple Podcasts and anywhere else that you can get your podcasts. This is kind of a big move for our podcast. One of the best performing in our territory, I would say. So since we're such a big draw, we're moving ourselves on over to Spotify and the website as well. But we will also still be here on YouTube.
When you told me this, I was a little bit confused because I thought it was available anyway.
Yeah.
I go to YouTube because that's where I want, after you get it
Sure.
uploaded, I like to go watch. You put on some really good photos and some other stuff on there. So that is big that we are now going to be featured on other places where you can see.
Well, sure. When you're driving down the road or something, you don't necessarily want to get pulled over. And I know that you're watching our YouTube videos when you're driving. But this maybe gives you an opportunity when you get pulled over and they say, were you looking at your phone and you were glued to the screen because Colt's on screen and, you're all excited about that. Now you can just listen to his voice. You don't necessarily have to look at us.
I know it's so soothing.
It's tempting, for our female audience. I know it's tempting that they want to take a look at you, which they can still do on YouTube, but now also on Spotify and our website, radioonthego.com.
And it's radioonthego.com/podcast.
So yeah,
And it'll be / between the ropes or something, I'm sure. I
Something like
just
that.
figured this out earlier today of some of our other podcasts on radioonthego.com. You got to radioonthego.com/podcast/ whatever it is you want to check out. So
Is that how it works?
I'm learning stuff every day. That's how I found it. That's how I found other stuff on
I'm
there.
the digital media guy. I didn't know that.
And I knew something before you.
I know about computers.
Oh,
Holy moly! I'm gonna get fired.
That's a good way to get in the whole thing here today.
Yeah. All right. Next time we will be talking about something else that's not Starrcade 83.
We'll have another topic.
We'll have
on
another
hand
topic, and
next week.
we'll go through that. Maybe we'll have a little more prep time. We didn't decide really ahead of time. We were just like, hey, which show do we know about?
Yeah, which one do we have? Yeah, we got to be more like Batman and have prep time.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yep. For Colt Powers, I'm Hunter Dietz, and this has been Between the Ropes, an On the Go Media podcast production.